What's up, everybody? This is Jason, zombie collector extraordinaire. Merry Christmas. Hope everyone's doing well on this December 25th, 2020, in the year of our Lord. It is 6:08 p.m. And so I thought, I made a proclamation yesterday that I would go live at some point today, and I want to keep my word because the thousands, if not tens of thousands, of YouTubers and visitors to my channel a day deserve that. So I thought I'd go live, and I was like, what can I do on this glorious day that something I don't normally do, and to kind of have like a very positive way to have an exclamation point at the end of 2020. And I thought, I'm going to talk about some of my YouTuber friends or acquaintances even maybe. And I thought I would leave this up. Now that I'm playing music, I probably won't be able to stay up, and I'll end up probably coming down. So YouTube will flag it for music copyright infringement or whatever. But I'll keep it up and we'll see what happens. Hey, what's up, Ron? So I thought I'd just go through my album here. You all see this album. This is Chuck Full. What up? Merry Christmas. This is Chuck Full, or Chock Full, I should say, not Chuck full of YouTuber love. I've been on YouTube now around this time, about 3 years ago, 2017, I believe, November, is when I started making videos. Now, I had done stuff before that. I did a couple of videos with my son, but it wasn't on my channel. I just did some stuff when he was a youngster. And of course, I've been, obviously on YouTube for since 2002 or something. I don't know. It's been a while. But I started making actual, content for what you all see, I believe in November of 2017. So my very first person who ever reached out to me, honestly, I don't even remember his name now. I feel bad, but he was kind of in and out of the community there for about the first 6 months or so. I was into the YouTube community, and he was the first person who started saying, "Hey man, I like your channel. Can I get your address?" And I'm like, I'm not giving some strange dude my address. No. What are you talking about? So I was like, he would do that on every video. He would say, "Can I contact you? Do you have your email?" And I'm like, "I'm not giving you my email." And he would be like, "Can I send you something?" And I'm like, "What? No." I mean, I did not know. I was such a noob. I was such an ignoramus, more than normal. I was confused at why some man who I did not know was so hard up on trying to get my address. And I'm like, I'm not giving you my address to some stranger. Little did I know that was a part of this great community, but I wasn't in on the memo initially. And I wish I could remember his name. He was a Yankees fan, and he's no longer in the community, not that I'm aware of, at least. But then, but after that, I started getting a few other people. He was the first person who really communicated with me back and forth. And then, that floodgates opened up after about 3 or 4 months. Hey, what up, Spidey? Merry Christmas. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. I get care packages for people that I don't even know who they are sometimes, and I feel bad because don't contact guys, that who know me and know my address and be like, "Hey, can I get Jason's address?" And I'm always finding someone interesting that we totally trust people that we never met with other people's addresses without first confirming that if it's okay to pass along our addresses. I mean, who says there's not a Jeffrey Dahmer in this community? Or John Wayne Gacy, or whatever. I mean, honestly, there's nothing that says that. So I'm a little bit nervous, even still today, I wouldn't be as nervous if I was like always on my own because I can take care of myself. But I have a little boy. That's what I get more concerned about. So there's always that. Now, now that I kind of feel like I have a better handle on the community, that's fine. But I've always been a little bit worried about. Yeah, exactly. I live in a van down by the river, right? Exactly. Except it's not Chris Farley. I'm more concerned about. I feel like I could take Chris Farley if I had to. But I do feel like there is a little bit of this innocence that we trust people with each other's addresses. And I mean, like I said, if like let's say Ron wants my address, and then like he knows Bob has my address, so Bob would contact me and be like, "Hey man, Ron wants your address. Is that okay?" Even though I guess it's supposed to be a surprise. I appreciate when people call me and tell me or text me like, "Hey, so and so wants your address," so I at least know who has my address out there. But that doesn't always happen, and that's fine. But like if Spidey asked me, "Hey, you have BF Golf's address," I would text BF Golf if I had his phone number and be like, "Hey, Spidey wants your address. Do you mind if he has it?" And that way he knows that somebody wants his address. What up, Reese? Merry Christmas, my brother. I've always been that way, just so people kind of know. And I know that kind of takes away maybe some of the fun of being surprised, but I'd rather be surprised with a gift than surprised with some deranged lunatic at my door, quite frankly. So, it is what it is. But I mean, I don't know how you all feel. But so with all that being said, the first couple of times that people would reach out to me and ask me if they can have my address, I was like, absolutely not. I don't know who you are. You could be some axe murderer. You need some kind of, child predator. There's no way I'm giving you my address. And that's no knock on anybody in this community. It's just I didn't know the way it worked. And so with that being said, over the years, I'm sure a lot of you all have this experience. People will send you little notes, little trinkets, little things from their collections or something they want to share with you. And sometimes it's a very little note. Sometimes it's a letter. Sometimes it's a little image or a little card or something. It could be a whole bunch of different stuff. And so it's really cool to have that. And I have this photo album chock full of stuff. Or I should say chock full. I keep saying Chuck. I don't know, is it Chalk? I don't know. But it's the Southern in me that I get it confused with the proper term. Spidey, nice. So, yeah. So there's not really an order to this. I kind of mixed it up over the years. So there's some things I got early on that might be in things I put in later. And there's things I might have got yesterday that I moved up like 15 pages just because there might be a spot for it. I'm going to try to show everything. But like I said, a lot of it's not I usually tape it to the back of the board so it doesn't fall off. I might still have a problem with it getting loose, because there's no way of doing it for sure. But anyways, the first one up is from Henry S. Old Henry S. This is something that he sent me a couple months ago. It says, "Insano junk truck now that it has stopped, no change. My stuff is your loss, no returns." From Henry S. Random things. So that's supposed to be me, I'm sure, because Henry does not wear glasses. But Henry S., if you've never got a care package from Henry S. is one of those guys who sends you. I feel like he's like, you know what? Jason's gonna get the half-naked, muscular guy playing cards called hunks. Jason's gonna get that mixed in with a couple stamps, some postcards. He also is gonna get a couple hotel keys. He may also get some random bent up 1960s baseball cards. I just love a Henry care package because there's no rhyme or reason for the care package. It's just like things that Henry just wants to pass on to somebody else. I've always appreciated Henry because he's a very eclectic guy. He has a very eclectic collection. Whenever you go to his channel, you never know what you're going to be getting. I always liked Henry for that reason. He's a straight up great guy, and I really do appreciate Mr. Henry tremendously. Next up is this kazoo. You got here. Now, this is autographed. right there. If you can see that. Now, you might be thinking, Jason, why do you have an autographed kazoo? The answer is TTM Troy Rudder. Him and I would send each other though. You know that meme of the little boy that's like playing the kazoo, and he's like, "Hey, partner." He has like the little blonde-headed boy with the bowl haircut from like 1992 or whatever, and he's like sitting on a little bench, or he's out in the woods, and he's like playing his little kazoo. Well, Troy, being a TTM guy, got his actual address and sent him a couple kazoos to autograph, along with an 8x10 or a paper or something. And then Troy sent me this kazoo signed by that kid who now is probably about like in his early 30s. But it was awesome. So that is his name is like it says Brian Austin, or maybe that's his name. Brett Austin, maybe Brett Austin. But anyway, so that came from that came from Troy Rudder. All right. Let's see here. Now this is coming from Beantown 62. He sent me this whole letter, a whole long letter right there. But the funny thing is, he sent me this whoopee cushion. So old Beantown 62 sent me this whoopee cushion. He sent me a whole care package full of stuff. I really, really appreciated him doing this. There's a whole lot of stuff that he sent me. He sent me a beanie. He sent me all kinds of stuff. But yeah, Beantown 62 sent me a lot of great items. So that's really, really cool. Now, he did send me a couple different things. I think this is also from Beantown 62. As I was saying, things are starting to fall. So I got this Beantown 62 right there, as you can see. And then right there is Zombie. That's back there, man. I had 142 subscribers. He sent me this. I won first place at something, and now I have close to 500. So a lot of things has changed over the years, right? All right, so now I got to try to get this in order. As I told you, a lot of this is moving around. So let me see if I can. I don't know. This kind of sucks because this stuff's like kind of going everywhere. All right, let's see if I can move this around a little bit. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to try to hold this up. So some more things from Beantown 62. We got Mike O on the Allen and Ginter card. It was 2 out of 2 as it like starting to fall now too. I got to go back and like get these on here better, but that's from Mike O right there. Let's see what else. Oh, this is from Matt Hills, from Matt and Mateo. I hope these 12 little rays of sunshine find you groovy and well. Skyline chili always or away. Me and Matt always talk about our Skyline chili. We love some Skyline chili. That is a running theme for me and Matt. And then sometimes I don't even know some of these stuff. I don't know who sent this to me, so I won't even try to attempt to figure it out. So I'm not even going to entertain the idea of coming up with that. I'm just going to leave it alone. All right. So here we have some from Nuff Said Cards, Mike O, Isman70, Henry S. Some more from Henry S. There we go. We got some more right there. Man, yeah, Skyline Chili. See, stuff's falling. I'm going to end up having to go through these binders and like fix it again. But we got a lot of this right here. As you see, it's falling. But I just want to talk about it here a little bit. And then we have some stuff from Bob Lewis. It's Mr. and Mrs. Hidden Gem. From Victor. Here we got some stuff from Victor. Has some amazing handwriting. If you all see that, Victor has some really nice handwriting, as does Bob Lewis. There I got a 1 of 1 from Bob Lewis. Yeah, they have better handwriting than me. My handwriting sucks. So yeah, I gotta go through here and fix all this, man. This is making me. My OCD can't handle it, dude. My OCD cannot handle it. Instead of showing it off, even though I know people probably, if I can show it off, I might. But instead of showing it off, I might just like kind of like see what people send and then kind of talk about it. Maybe that might be a better option, because if I keep trying to show it to people, a lot of it's just like letters or notes or whatnot. It's not like you're going to sit there and read every single word of it anyways. So instead of trying to do that, maybe I will just skip over it. So with that being said, so let me go back to some of the things that people have written, kind of like give you all some ideas about some stuff. So Hidden Gem is out of Miami, Florida. He found me pretty early on. His name's Raphael. He actually came out about 2 years ago, 2018, at this time of the year, actually. Him and Bob showed up, and we hung out for about 3 or 4 days. This out of the kindness of his heart, he was like, "Hey, man, I want to come up and visit you." That's like stuff never happens. He just like, "Hey, man, I'm going to get on an airplane. I'm going to fly up and meet you at your house." And again, this is a guy I never met before. And up until that point, like right before he came to my house, I never even seen what the guy looked like, because he always did his videos behind the camera. You never saw his face. So he sent me some like picture of him being like a middle school football coach, and it was like, "Hey, that's me," with all these like kids around, and I'm like, okay. So I didn't even know who this guy was, who I was going to invite into my house and live with me for 3 or 4 nights. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of crazy. So he shows up at the airport. I go pick him up from after I get off of work. And we hit it off, obviously, got to know each other. Such a great guy. He was such a tremendous, tremendous guy. We went to a card shop, so we went to card shows together. Bob met us the next day. And we all just 3 hung out at a card show for, like the day. Him and I took him to a bunch of different places to eat and to shop for baseball cards. We just had a great time. But I mean, the dude flew to my house in the wintertime from Miami. I couldn't believe it. Like, that's like me. That's like Dustin Abraham saying, "Hey, man, you want to come to my house?" It's like me flying from Indiana to Minnesota. It ain't going to happen in the wintertime. I might like you, Dustin, but I don't like you that much. But he came up and did that. It was so kind of him. He brought stuff for my son, like little gifts for my son. It was awesome. Such a classy guy. I'll never forget that. But I mean, just the attitude and the support and the love of this community by the people here is just something that you just don't see. I've never seen in my life. It's amazing. So that's a little bit about him. Victor Negron cards, as you all know, a class act Puerto Rican collector. It's funny because he rarely shows his face on his channel as well. He will get in front of the camera from time to time, but most of the times he prefers me behind the camera. He's a very easygoing guy. He doesn't get too excitable about stuff, which is probably a good balance to who I am as a person. He's always been he is a consistent person in my life as far as YouTube is concerned. He's not much in the way of texting or talking on the phone. I don't know if it's just maybe it's me. He doesn't have that kind of connection with, or that's just him as a personality thing, which is totally fine. But but whenever I do a live stream, he's almost always there. Whenever I post a video, he almost always makes a comment. I mean, I really appreciate Victor because he's a straight up this classic example of what this community is, which is just fantastic. I should kind of go back a little bit to talk about some of the guys. Beantown 62 out of Texas, a big Boston Red Sox fan. He's an old school guy, which I like. He has an amazing collection. I've kind of fallen out of touch with Beantown over the years, but there was a time about 3 or 4 month period where we were very much back and forth talking. with each other on a regular basis. I can't really say much about him recently. I don't know if he's still doing videos or not, but neither one of us have really spoke about, been on each other's channels. It might have something to do with me not being the biggest fan of the Sun. I want this video to be a positive video, so I'm not going to get into it. But Beantown Sun also has a channel or had a channel, and him and I don't see eye to eye on a couple of things. And the short of it is, we had a falling down, and of course that's his son. I totally understand. No hard feelings. So I don't know much about what's going on with Beantown nowadays. Then I talked about Troy Rudder, TTM Troy. I gotta say about Troy. I mean, Troy, Michael, and Ed Wesker Griff are the three. And I've said this before on many a channel, or many a times. I'm gonna say it many more. Those three guys are what got me into wanting to do YouTube videos. I know a lot of times people find Nate's channel or the channel Nate does with that other guy. I can't remember his name, but Junk Cards TV or something. I can't remember. I can't remember. I know a lot of people kind of get introduced through the community through that channel that they do or have done in the past. And a few other guys, there's a few other big guys in the community, But 3-4 years ago, I guess it's going on now, 4 years because it's past the 30-year mark. 18, 19, 20, yeah. So, but I went back, and if you know those guys, they've been around forever. They've been around for at least 5 to 8 years, most of them. And some of them might have been here longer than that. But I went back to the very first videos, and all three of those guys. Sports Card Junkies TV. There you go. That's what it was. Thank you. I couldn't remember. I went back to their very first videos and watched all the way up to whatever they were current. And I watched every single video of theirs because I was so enamored by the way they did their videos, their collections. Like Ed's, like me, he just turns the camera on and just talks about his cards or talks about whatever. Mike goes a little bit more polished, but he does a lot more variety. He does football. He did TTMs back then. He did box breaks. He did pack breaks. He did modern. He did vintage. He did kind of like sets and autographs. He did the Allen Ginter stuff. He did a little bit of everything. The Philadelphia Phillies. And then Troy was specifically 100% TTMs. His was a little bit more and getting even more polished than Mike's at the time. He had a lot more, he had better editing and all that, and he just did specifically just autographs. And I just really got into those guys, and they just were like, the pillars of the community in my mind. With all that being said, Troy, I really connected with Troy because, I think Troy and we're a little bit older on this, we a little bit more life experience, I think, that are very similar. And I think for me, Troy and I just hit it off because he's a movie guy. He lived in Los Angeles. He was really big into movies and that experience. He worked in Hollywood for many years. I also had that connection with that as well. So I had a good time talking with Troy. And also, Troy is a really private person, but when you get to know Troy, he's a really, a fun-loving guy. He's a lot more, to the vest, whereas I think Ed and, Mike are a little bit more, we'll talk about their a little bit more personal stuff, but Troy's a little bit more private. So getting to know him was really good. Then I got a Mike O autograph. Mike O's a great guy. I'm not really going to say a lot that people don't know about Mike O. Mike O has always been like a staple. He's been around. He's Mr. Consistent. You go to Mike O's channel, you're going to consistency. The guy is like, the Rock of Gibraltar. I mean, he just goes out there and does his thing. He doesn't get too excited about too much. You can tell he loves the hobby. And, it's cool whenever I hear him talk about stuff, him and his dad, because him and his dad still are able to collect and have that same experience, I guess, when Michael was just a kid, and his dad and him still have that relationship, which is awesome. Now Michael does a lot of auctions, giving things to people, not giving them, but selling things to people for the, maybe people like me who don't have access or won't spend the money on Allen Ginter Black or Topps Now cards or the American Allen or the Topps 206 cards and stuff. And he gives access to a lot of that stuff to people like myself who don't want to spend the money on the boxes, but we want to get the singles. And he has an opportunity where you can do that. He's a wealth of knowledge. Every time I've ever asked Miko for any advice or knowledge, he's the first one to give it to me. He'll be like, "Hey man, yeah, let's talk, or send me some pictures, or here's my advice to you." I greatly appreciate that because I know that Miko really is a stand-up guy, at least from what I can see, what I know. One thing about Troy Rudd I want to say is I don't think he gets enough respect in the community. I don't know why. It's because maybe he's strictly a TTM guy, but I feel like he's one of those guys that's been around forever, like literally been around for like 7 years, 8 years, maybe longer, and like I feel like he always gets overlooked, and I don't know why that is. I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of interaction he has on other people's channels. But if you're a TTMer, if you like autographs, I mean, his channel is like just tons of great information. Then I got Izman70. He started out kind of hot and heavy in the community too, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit. Him and I still talk on a quasi-regular basis, not super a lot. He's a Boston Red Sox fan. I think he lives in and around Boston. He's a great guy. I really like Izzy. He's a classy guy. Always was sending me red stuff. Just sending me lots of care packages. Like, hey man, I got a stack of cards I'm gonna send your way. Really friendly. Really just again, a guy who just just really wanted to. I don't know what's the word I want to look for here. He's a very just again solid dude. Like he didn't really. I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is. Like he was mostly about just doing what he was doing, which I'm going to probably say a lot on this video. But he really was just doing what he was doing. Like he wasn't really getting swayed by a lot of people. He liked his Boston teams: Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, maybe Boston Bruins. I don't know if he really talked about hockey a whole lot. But he's a Boston guy. He didn't really get caught up too much in the hoopla of everybody else, what new rookies were happening, what new products were going on. He just was like buying product, opening it up, and see what his Boston guys, if he could get his Boston guys. Enough said cards. Andrew. I mean, him and I talked today on the phone. I'm sorry, we texted each other back and forth today. You never see what Andrew looks like. He's super private based on what he does for a living. He doesn't want to have his face out there, which I totally understand. He is out of the handful of guys that I have yet to meet in person, he has to be at the top of the list. He is such a great guy. He has such an amazing eye and collection. He does almost exclusively pre-war stuff. He actually just loaded a video. I just started watching it today of his brother's collection. He has a couple of sons who are into baseball card collecting or sports card collecting, and they'll go and they'll do videos and things of that sort together. And he'll get into some newer stuff with them to kind of share the hobby with them and share their passion. But man, if you want to see some awesome pre-war stuff, postcards, turn the city stuff is absolutely awesome, dude. Josh Johnson, I don't know who that is, but I take your word for it, Dave, for sure. What's up, brother? Thanks for popping in. But enough said, Card's such a great guy. Andrew is if you've not checked out Andrew's channel, if you like vintage, if you like pre-war, and then if you like somebody who knows the history of the game, knows the history of the cards. Oh, I was going to say, I don't know that guy. So I was like, I wasn't about to be like, yeah, man, screw that guy. Total douchebag. Because I don't think I knew you as Josh Johnson. Honestly, I don't remember if I knew you as that guy. I think I've known you as Amish Dave Archer since my beginning, at least. I know you've been around forever. People have always talked about it, but I didn't know you at that point in time, I think. And if I did, it didn't register something now. But yeah, enough said, Cards. Let's see who else we're talking about today. I already talked about Henry S. I talked about Hidden Jim. I talked about Victor. Talked about Mike O. Let's take a look here. I'm getting all these texts. Let me see here. Mike. Oh, Hitman. Hey, man. Sorry. I got a couple texts real quick. I want to make sure I respond because it's like, it's Hitman 23. It's Mike, right? Happy Kwanzaa. Love you, homie. I almost spelled love. Oh, instead of love, I spelled live. Oh my gosh, dude. This is what happens when you try to hustle through a text. And then I got a text from, who is this guy? Oh, Ed Wesker Griff just texted me. His ears must have been burning. But anyway, so who up next is, man, we already talked about Troy, talked about Hidden Jim, Alex. Bowman 53, man. Alex is one of those guys, aside from Bob Lewis, that I talk to probably at least once a week. I talk to Bob probably once a day in some capacity. But, Bob, Alex and I have more of a similar lifestyle, kind of, sort of. I mean, he has a lady friend, and I have my son. So, you're busy with those things in our lives, but we have a lot of downtime as well. So I could chat up with Alex quite a bit. But, man, Alex is such a great guy. He's another one of those guys who I respect in their community. Whenever I'm about ready to go off the deep end, Alex is one of those guys I trust that can tell me, hey, man, don't do it. Don't jump off the cliff. Pull back. Think about your approach. And I appreciate that. He's a solid dude. He's always been there. He's been one of the first guys as well. And the cool thing about Alex's channel is that even though I'm not a 53 Bowman collector, I probably never will be. I would love to have a few of the cards, but it's not really my thing. I always love this channel, just like with Nuff Said Cards Andrew. Their collections, their knowledge, their love of the game, they're just plethora of information is what keeps me coming back to their channels. They're really good guys. They have a good sense of humor. They're really low-key, down-to-earth, and I love that about those guys. Alex and I talk on the phone. We have lots of good conversations. A lot of times we talk about things that have nothing to do with ball cards. I just respect him and appreciate him as a friend, without a doubt. He's also been one of those guys who's been on my channel from almost the beginning, always commenting on my videos, always just being such a solid dude, always a word of encouragement and a word of friendship on my videos, which greatly is appreciated because to me, if you know anything about my channel, if you go to the very first video to the one I made yesterday or whatever, all I care about is the interaction in the community. I don't care if I have almost 500 subs, 50 subs, or 5,000 subs. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change anything about my approach. All I care about is like quality dudes or dudettes and that interaction, that camaraderie, that friendship, and that's what I care about. And Alex has that in spades. He's a classy guy, and I cannot say enough about Alex. And like Andrew, he's one of those guys I cannot wait to meet in person. When I'm hoping the National's going to happen, we get through all this ridiculousness with the COVID and stuff, and then we can hang out and like just have a beer, have a brewski, have a whiskey, have a bourbon, and talk shop, talk cards. It'd be awesome. I'm looking forward to that day. So I'm hoping that happens. And he's definitely one of those guys. Hey, what up, Reese? Yeah, most down-to-earth guy, man, for sure. Next up is Mr. Bob Lewis. It doesn't come as a surprise to anybody, I'm sure, listening in or will listen to this later possibly. If I took off the music because I thought, you know what, if they take this down, it's going to suck. And they may. Because I had the music on for the first 30 minutes. So it was like, I'm sure there's a lot of that copyrighted Christmas music is going to take it down. But anyways, Bob Lewis, he's come to my house a couple of times to visit and spend time with me over the years. I've been to his house twice up in Pittsburgh. Such a great guy. We talk on the phone on an almost daily basis. He has a lot. He has a family. He has a wife and 2 children. He has one on the way, which is going to completely change his life and restart it all over again. And that's fine. That's fine. That's what you want. That's awesome. I'm past those days of my life. I'm very grateful that my those days are over for me. I love my son with every fiber of my being. I wouldn't have it any other way. But I would not want to restart at 4. I'll be 42 next week. I would not want to restart my being a daddy to a little kid again for sure. So more power to him. But he's been a great friend. He's one of those guys like Alex that I wish lived close so I could hang out with all the time. I mean, seriously, there's sometimes I sit around and go, man, it'd be so cool right now if I could just call up Alex, call up Bob and say, hey, man, you free? You want to come on over, hang out, have a beer, watch some TV, watch a movie, watch the game, or want to go grab a bite to eat somewhere and catch a game on the in the bar at the restaurant. Those are the kind of guys you want to do that with. So it definitely sucks that we're so far away, but it is what it is. He's always taken me out and shown me Pittsburgh. He bought me this shirt actually right here. Him and his wife bought me that shirt. It's a local Pittsburgh store T-shirt. They always take me around and show me the sights and sounds of Pittsburgh. This past March, right when the COVID hit America, we were there, and I was with my son. I took him. They took my boy in and let him be a part of their family, introduced him to their daughters. They had a good time. But it was the first time my son ever had a real experience over a multiple day period with the girls that are around his age. Because Bob has a niece that's I think my son's age, and then he has a daughter that's a year and a half younger than Luca. And so it was he had his fill, that's for sure. But they took us all around Pittsburgh. It was awesome. All the great restaurants, all the great shopping, all the great landmarks. Always taking me around. It was amazing, and I look forward to it again. We're gonna try to get together at least one more time, maybe even 2 more times before the baby is fully ready to be here. So we will see if that actually transpires. But yeah, Bob Lewis, he was also the first ones. And some of you all might have heard this story before, and I don't want to bore you all with my regaling you all with the story you've all heard before, but I feel like it's worth mentioning once again. So Bob's job, he sends him around the United States sometimes to do office setups with what he does for a living. And he happened to be in Fishers, Indiana, which is about 20 minutes from my house, roughly. And him and I had just started becoming kind of good buddies via, YouTube. And he's like, hey, man, he apparently had been living around here week on and week off for a month or 2. But he would go back on the weekends and see his family. But Monday through Friday, he was living here in Indiana because he was setting up shop. So towards the end of his time, he was like, let's get together and hang out. And this was the first time I ever hung out with anybody who I never met before on YouTube. Because this is probably early 2018, I would say, spring-ish. So 5-ish months into me doing it, 6 months. So he had gotten off of work in the evening, and I was like, what do you want to do? A lot of things are car shops were closed, no car shows were going on during the week. And I was like, do you want to grab a bite to eat? He was like, sure, let's go grab a bite to eat. I was like, what do you like to eat? And he was like, I don't care, man. I'm not picky, whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't want to invite somebody to go somewhere to eat and they don't like the food or the other situation is it's not a good connection. You don't really, you don't have a lot to talk about. Or you don't really know what to say. It's kind of weird. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. So I picked this Chinese restaurant. Remember those mall Chinese restaurants that are back in the 80s and 90s? You go and they always have the little General Tso chicken on the little toothpick, and they're trying to shove it in your face to eat it, the little bourbon chicken. Well, there's a place in Anderson that's like that, but it's a brick and mortar standalone mom and pop place. It's called Kung Fu Cafe. That's the name of the restaurant. I didn't make it up. And so I was like, hey, Bob, do you like Chinese food? Do you like mall Chinese food from the 80s? He's like, yeah, dude. Because it's baseball cards. We grew up in the 80s. Mall Chinese food from the 80s, that'd be a perfect fit. So he was like, sure. So I give him the address. We go meet this place, and I no one knew who Bob was in the community really. Me and him started out. We both had about the exact same amount of subs. We were about at that 130. He had 140 or so. He 10 or 15 subs ahead of me. So we're like right there. We're just starting to get a little bit of momentum going in our community or in our YouTube channels or whatever. This is before he got a big candidate and became YouTube Hall of Famer Bob Lewis, by the way, too. He was still a humble guy. Now he walks around like, hot big guy on campus. Like, look at, he doesn't even like, he hardly ever talks to me anymore. Like, I got to call him up, move money from my PayPal account into his before he takes my call and even talks to me. He's like, okay, you gave me some money. I'll talk to you now. So I know it's like an ongoing thing in our community about how tall Bob Lewis is, but I will tell you, the first time that ever happened, I'm the one who I'm sure started that. Not that it makes a difference, but I always brought it up. If you go back to watch my very first video where I talk about beating Bob Lewis for the first time, so this is probably like sometime in a 2018 video. Bob gets out of his car. I'm 5'7", so I'm not a tall guy at all. And Bob gets out of his car, and like he's just, he's like Bob's like 6'3" or something like that. And I'm like, thank God we were in a public place with well lit, because if this guy was upset, he was gonna beat me to death, and you would never see me anymore because he'd throw me in some like dumpster somewhere. So we meet. We start talking. It's like a great, we have this great rapport. We're talking about our families, talk about our faith, talk about cards, of course, talk about our life experiences. We just really hit it off. And ever since, that's just been the catalyst to where we are today. Almost 4 years later, we've been friends. And I mean, honestly, outside of my like childhood friends, that I have a couple, Bob's probably the closest guy in my life that I can like call up and talk to. And I feel like vice versa the same way. And he's a really great guy. You would never think about that. When I first started this channel, and I'm sure so many of us would say the same thing. When you first started this YouTube channel, either you started a channel yourself or you communicated with other people, you never would imagine that it turned into what it has turned into, and the friendships you would have made and you continue to make and have sustained, and just the connections you have with so many other guys. It really is pretty amazing, And I was never a big believer in having like online friends or internet friends. I used to almost like scoff at people who go, yeah, but some of my best friends are online. I'm like, you losers, you stupid losers. Like, who says that? That is like, but so lame. And now I'm like the first guy who's like, man, some of my best buds are online. Have you ever met them? Nope. Don't know. I never met Alex. Never met Andrew. I never met Reese. Reese is another great guy. I never chance to, we talk on a quasi-regular basis on texting and on the phone and all that. He's another classy guy. Never met him. These are good guys. These are guys that I would love to like get to know better and hang out with and, whatnot. So for sure, it's blowing my mind, So there's that. So moving on. Next up is Carter's kids. Him and I had a falling out over the whole COVID-19 wearing a mask thing. I honestly can't even remember his first name. I feel terrible. Man, that is not to be disrespectful or rude. I honestly don't remember. What is it? I know he was a obviously Gary Carter super collector. Man. And his son was a Buster Posey collector. Man, I feel bad, dude. Man, I cannot remember. I can't believe I can't remember. But yeah, we had a falling out, and when you have two strong-willed people who come at each other, Steve, thank you, Spidey. So when you have two strong-willed people who come at certain things from different directions, it could cause problems. It could cause friction. And I'm aware of that. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know that. Or a cup of coffee if you don't drink tea, or whatever, a cup of Coke, cup of Diet Coke, cup of caffeine-free Coke. I understand that. But, I think sometimes, people, including myself, you dig your heels in and you put it out there, and people are not going to agree with you. And I think that's why I have a lot of people that are like good friends of mine, or like me and Dave. Me and Dave are kind of have very similar personalities. Like, when we don't like something, we let people know. Like, we don't really care. Like, I don't care. I could be that pit bull, and I'll bite down and keep going, even if people might think I'm wrong. I really don't care. but I'm also man enough to admit when I am wrong, and I've apologized publicly on YouTube multiple times. Sometimes when I felt like I might have went too far on certain things, or I need to reiterate or like explain myself better. But at the same time, I think a lot of people do respond to me that way because I'm just like a real person. Like I really don't care if you like me or not. I really don't. And with Steve, him and I disagreed about the whole COVID stuff. With the masks, and he got high up on his horse. I got up on my stallion, and it was like the joust. We went running at each other, and here we are. So it is what it is. No hard feelings towards him, but he was a great guy. He sent me lots of Cincinnati Reds cards. He would always send me a stack of stuff, and then Turnout would send him a bunch of Gary Carter cards, or I sent Buster Posey to his son. Or he was getting into Boomer Esiason there for a while, I think, and I sent him some stuff there. I respect Steve. He's an educator. That's a sometimes a thankless job in our society, which is unfortunate because good guys like him are probably hard to come by. I mean, he's very caring and passionate. And I know he cares about what he does with those kids. So it is what it is. So there's that, and then we have Angel Brock's Bomber. Yeah, exactly. If I threaten to kick you and beat you down, it's just because I think you're just the best. But then you have Angel Bronx Bomber, who was the original Bronx Bomber. Then it was weird. Like Angel had Bronx Bomber for like months, and this other guy had another name. And then he changed his name to the Bronx Bomber too. And I'm like, what? I thought that was a pretty shady thing to do. It's like this guy's been around as Bronx Bomber for, I don't know, better part of a year. And then there's some other guy who had been like, whatever, Tiddlywinks Chapman or something, changed his name to Bronx Bomber. But I think he put like a number on it, like 87 or something. And I'm like, that's like somebody going, yeah, I used to be, Phantom of the Opera, but I'm gonna become Zombie Collector today. I'm like, do what? You better not, because then I'm gonna come to your house and turn you into a zombie. So, but yeah, I was kind of like, that was weird. But he was another Cuban guy out of Florida. He's one of those guys like me, man. But he was way more intense, if you can imagine. If you think I get intense. You haven't seen an Angel video or unhead, man, dude. He would do like videos recording himself in his truck, like on the beach, some like lake or river, like on the side of the road, in a toilet. I mean, like all kinds of places, like on some stoop somewhere. And he would say all kinds of stuff. He'd be on there like talking about like, if you don't agree with me, I'll knock your teeth out and whipping around. He one time got a gun in a video and pointed towards the camera and was like, I'll take care of business and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, wow. I was like, woo. That blew my mind. Literally, I was like, Angel, you are the man, the myth, the legend. I would never... Of all my craziness, there was like no way I would like get on there and talk about pistol whipping somebody who disagreed with me. I was like, wow. And so he would go completely balls out on his videos. And he would get in there and like get all heated and stuff. And I guess people would give him a hard time in the comment section sometimes. And he would go like nutso on them. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean like he did not care. He did not, he did not take any humor. What is it like? Something fools. What's that old adage, that phrase? Like he did not something fools. I can't think of the word, but that was him. He was not about to play games with these guys and gals. Like probably just guys. He would like let you know how it was. Next up, I have here Gary Big Scott. I've mentioned this on my videos before, the past two. Big Scott, great guy, Illinois. My brother from Illinois. He's another one of those guys who he likes to ask people questions. He's not scared to mix it up with people. He's not scared to disagree with you publicly. He's not scared to call you up and be like, hey man, what do you think about this? what do you think about this guy or what this guy said? Like he's a very much of an internal thinker. And I appreciate that about Gary. Like sometimes he's like that guy who goes, I don't know if I'm right about this, or I don't know if I see it from the same perspective. Let me ask somebody else. Maybe they can help me understand this better. There's very, very few people out there like that, including myself. If I don't like somebody, if I don't like something somebody said, like I'm already ready to write you off. Like I don't care. Like, and that's the same way people don't like me or like what I say. They're probably like, screw that guy. That's fine, because that's how I am. But like Gary, is like, he's like in deep thought. He's internalizing. He's thinking about it. He's meditating on this, I think. And I respect that about him because he really does try to think, well, why is that guy saying that? Why is he looking at it from that perspective? Like, can someone tell me why he thinks that? And I think that's great about Gary because he really is trying to understand, get to the root cause of why people say what they say or how people approach certain things. And I respect that because, quite frankly, I ain't getting that deep about most people. I don't got time for it, and quite frankly, I don't care that deeply about it. But I think it's cool about Gary. Gary's always been there. He's another one of those guys that's been there from day one with me. I feel like Gary, Bob, Gary, Alex, or some of the main guys have been around since day one with me. No matter how crazy I might act or get sometimes on here about certain things or topics or individuals, Gary's always been like one of those, like, again, straight shooters. Is like keeping me honest, which I greatly, greatly appreciate. So that is always good. Let's take a look here. Then I got one here from JT, Triple Crown 24. He's another guy that I had over the house multiple times. We've hung out together. Great guy. Wise beyond his years, like so many of us know. A lot of you all know him now as a Miggy Cabrera super collector, PSA, maestro, so to speak. But back in the olden days, he was almost exclusively a TTMer when he first started. And he was another one of those guys I watched from the very beginning. I liked what he was doing. I think I've been around a little bit longer than him, but maybe I'm wrong. But he wasn't around much longer than me, from my knowledge. And then we hit it off. Great guy. He started his. I take no credit to this, by the way, but right when he started doing his, changing his direction into being a strictly like car dealer, seller, whatever, I was there at the precipice of that. And he was coming around this neck of the woods to do card shows, and he would come and crash at my place. We would hang out. We would trade. We would go to card shops. We'd go to Meijer or Walmart or whatever, getting cards, getting fuel for him selling the next day. I would take him to different restaurants. We'd have a good time hanging out. And then he started taking the direction even more serious, where he went on to eBay with it, and he still does card shows, but to my knowledge, he still will do them from time to time. And then he got involved with the PSA grading and stuff. But he's a great guy. Actually, I'm talking to you all on a notebook that he sent me for free. Like, when YouTube did their whole, you can't go live on your phone anymore unless you have 1,000 subscribers, and everybody was like begging people for subscribers who were like at 500 or 700 or 300 subscribers. And they realized they couldn't go live anymore on their phones. They were like begging people for like the better part of 3 or 4 months that they can't go live anymore. And so they were like just like, like flopping all over you, like, please subscribe to me. I gotta go live. Like, it is like nonsense. I had stopped doing my live videos because I was doing lots of live streams, and I couldn't do them anymore because I didn't have 1,000 subs. I don't have 1,000 subs now. And then there was a workaround. If you have a notebook like he sent me, or if you have like a laptop or whatever, you can still go live. You just couldn't go live on your phone. So out of the blue, JT, out of the kindness of his heart, after he already sent me like a huge care package of baseball cards, he sent me this actual notebook. He goes, he wiped it or whatever. He wiped it. He got everything off, and everything. He took off his Tinder accounts. and all his Plenty of Fish accounts and all his pictures, his selfies he was taking of himself. He wiped all that clean and sent me the notebook. I mean, we're talking about this. I mean, what a great guy. I never even thought in a million years somebody's going to send me a few $100 notebook. Now, I know he said he upgraded or got a new one, and he was, it's not that great anymore. It's not that good. I'm like, dude, I could care less. I am so grateful for you doing that, and that's why I'm doing this live right now. I could go live through StreamYard on my phone, but I like the idea of just doing it like this because that way my phone, I'm not like having to worry about staying on this little bitty screen and all that. I can just be right here, and I'm ready to go. But, great guy. He's also one of those guys I can call up, ask any kind of question, and he's super knowledgeable, way more knowledgeable than me about especially modern-day stuff, about the grading world, about PSA. I've asked him many questions about eBay. He's always been nothing but just a class act the entire time, which I greatly appreciate, Mr. JT. Triple Crown 24. Let's see who else is next. Chasing Ink. So Chase from Chasing Inc. It's a TTM channel. Him and I are very much alike, but unfortunately, he's one of those guys, and maybe I could be wrong, but he didn't do a lot of interacting. Like he liked that you interacted with him on his channel, and it seemed like he liked that, but he wouldn't interact with you on your channel. So I kind of moved on from that because I have to have that interaction with people. Like, if you're not interacting with me on my channel, you're not coming to my channel, you're not interacting with me, then what am I doing on your channel? I'm not going to interact with you, quite frankly, because I don't got no time for that, as the meme or as the GIF says. So he was one of those guys who was always like, come to my channel, check what I'm doing out, which I think is great. But then, like, when I'd be doing stuff, he'd never show up. So I'm like, all right, dude, I'm pretty much done with you. But, he's a good guy. I like Chase. He's a big TTMer. That's his thing. At least it was. So he's a really good guy, man. I like him. He's all right. Next up, let's take a look here. Who is next? Jonathan, Cuban collector. Dude, man, Jonathan's another one of those great guys. I don't know what it is, but all three, Jonathan, Raphael, and Angel, all Cubans, all in Florida, Miami in particular for Jonathan and Raphael. They're like very dispassionate people. Jonathan's a great guy. Him and I we had like about 8-month period, maybe almost a year period where him and I would just get on I'd get on my son's PS4, and he had a PS4 in his house. And we would just play Fortnite. And when I say play Fortnite, I mean him and I would just get on there and we just talk. Like what you and I are doing here, I couldn't even play that game. I barely even killed somebody in that game. And that game is like very, popular. It was very popular a couple years ago. But Jonathan and I just we would just hang out on there. Jonathan would be like, he'd get so mad if he got killed or like these kids would talk garbage to him. He would lose his mind and threaten these kids or teenagers and talk about going to their house and whipping them and stuff. And I'm like, dude, will you please stop? This kid's probably 14. Who cares what this kid says? And he's like, man, I'm getting tired of this kid's crap. And he'd be talking all this crazy nonsense stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jonathan, let it go, dude. Let it go. But he was always about smoking his Cuban cigars on his channel, talking about baseball cards. He's big. He was probably the biggest supporter of Cuban players. He educated, I'm sure, lots of us, but including myself, most importantly, about Cubans, Cuban players, about what it meant to be a Cuban in Miami, Cuban players and coming over from Cuba to America to play baseball, the history of that, a lot of the cards. He had a lot of good knowledge and maybe still does. I just haven't watched his channel. A lot of these guys' channels I just don't watch a lot anymore because either they went in another direction or they take long breaks, including myself. I understand why a lot of people didn't come back to my channel initially when I left for 6-7 months or whatever it was. And I don't blame people who did. Not at all. But Jonathan's another one of those guys who I like to hang out with sometime, and hopefully I will eventually. Next up, Josh Impact Player. We've talked multiple times, I mean, dozens and dozens, maybe not hundreds of times on the phone. He lives in Michigan, so, he lives right here in Michigan. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know where he lives exactly in Michigan. But lives in Michigan. He's a father of 2 kiddos. His son plays travel baseball like my son plays. He's a Christian guy. We talk a lot about, being dads and being dads of kids who play sports and our collecting and just our politics, our religion, stuff like that. So he's just one of those really great guys. And he's also one of those guys who likes to, he'll tell you how he really feels about certain things. And you need people like that in your lives, guys. Even if you don't agree with what they have to say, even if you don't agree with the way, they might disagree with you about certain stuff, it's good to have people in your life because there's always a right and a wrong way to deliver an information to somebody. You can disagree with somebody and you can come across like a really classy dude by disagreeing and still be able to meet in the middle and respect each other and hear what they have to say because they come at you in a real respectful way. And then you can do the alternative, which is talk to somebody like they're your dad or talk to them like they are beneath you. And that information does not compute as good. And if anything, you become resentful and upset about it. And you're like, who do you think you're talking to? I'm a grown man. I don't need another grown man trying to tell me here's my daddy and tell me what to do. And I like that about the people I have, most of the guys in my life, that they, we can have those honest conversations. I don't feel like they are being disrespectful. And I think that's the information can come at you, the same information can come at you in 2 different ways. And one you can become very responsive and appreciative of, and you can take and listen. And there's another one where you're like, it can be the exact same message, but it's delivered in a completely different way. And you're like, I don't know who this person thinks they're talking to, but they're about ready to get knocked out. They're about ready to go and find out you come from the school of hard knocks and it ain't going to be very pretty. So it is very interesting about your delivery and your approach of certain topics or just information in general. And Josh is one of those guys who I've always appreciated his very straightforward nature. Again, him and I might not agree necessarily all the time, but I like him a lot. He's a brother, and I appreciate the way he handles his business for sure. And even though he's a Michigan fan, he needs Jesus for sure for that. And then I have Ray I Collect Ichiro. Another great guy, dude. I mean, not only because his Ichiro collection is untouched for almost any. I mean, I don't even know another person that I'm aware of that is a Ichiro collector that even has a tenth of what Ray has. I mean, the guy's collection is amazing. I mean, if you go back and watch all his videos, he only has maybe 20, 30 videos of Ichiro. I mean, he's pretty much exclusively showing Ichiro cards. I mean, he tells you about stuff you didn't even know existed. Literally, almost every video he says, so, I mean, he's showing a card, I'm going to show this Hideo Nomo. He's so they released 7 of these cards in a special release in Japan that only executives received who had dogs under the age of 3 that were Shiba Inu dogs exclusively that were the color brown. And out of those 7 cards, 3 were in a Samurai Village Fire, and then only 4 are left, and I have 1 of them. I mean, it's stuff like that. I'm like, what? Where did this come from? And he does stuff like that all the time. He'll just show a card, and he gives you this amazing backstory on said card, and you're like, hold on, wait, what? I didn't even know this card even existed. How did I miss this card? How did I miss this card? How did I not even know this thing existed? And I'm like, these cards are so rare because you go to channels like Mangini, John Mangini, Dave, Blue Jacket 66, a few of these guys who deal, Rick, Vintage Oddball cards, these guys who deal in vintage or oddball or rare or hard to find cards of certain players or companies, and like, that are from yesteryear. And then you have people like Ray, who is like showing you cards of like modern day time. I mean, 2001 and maybe even the 90s, some with Ichiro cards that are not even like 30 years old hardly. And there's like so many weird offshoot variation, super short print, nitroglycerin drop, plaid edition, nuclear bomb. When I'm like, what in the world? Like, where are these coming from? And he's able to find them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? Like, how did this happen? And it's just amazing when you go to his channel because he'll do stuff like that. And I also like his approach, kind of like how Mangini will do it. Like, they know they have a super rare card. Hey, what up, Henry? They know they have a super rare card. They know it's very hard. They know that probably no one else will ever see this card before or after. And they talk about it like it's, like a Yordan Alvarez rookie card, like it's easily to be gotten or something. And they're just like, here it is. And it's like, there's only one of like 7 in the whole world. And he's showing it to you on there like it's no big deal. And I'm like, dude, we'll probably never see that card again. Once it goes into your collection, we'll probably never see it again. I mean, it's unbelievable sometimes. So, yeah. So we talk on the phone on I'd say every like month or so, maybe every month and a half, we'll talk on the phone and just catch up again. He's a father of a couple kiddos. I think we're the exact same age, give or take a year. So, I really like Ray. Really low key again. I feel like a lot of the guys that I'm friends with, they're like real low key, like just down to earth, not very excitable and people. Where I'm like super intense, always super excitable, always like running my mouth at like 100 miles an hour looking for a fight. And they're like super just like chill out dudes, man. They're just like, hey man, it's all gonna be okay. It's all just rainbows and cotton candy and lemon shakes or lemon ice shakes or whatever you call those summer drinks, lemon squeeze, shake'ems or something. I don't know. I'm going off on some world tangent. Whoa, shoot. I almost knocked that off. But anyways, guys, I think I'm going to hop off here. I've been on an hour. A WWE SmackDown starts at 8 o'clock. I want to make sure I have enough time. I got to do some cleaning up beforehand so I can watch the show. It's on Fox if you watch it. But anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. If you didn't, I'm sorry in advance, but guess what? I did my personal best. I may pop out again later on tonight. Who knows? Maybe I'll have a friend. Maybe I'll have a guest with me. I'll go live. So until next time, guys, I appreciate y'all watching. Peace.